Hey everyone, this is a game from round 4 of the Isle of Man tournament between Peter Leko with the white pieces and GM Panchanathan with the black pieces. This game started out as Rui Lopez Briar variation, which is signified by the knights on c6 return back to c8 as opposed to Shigoran variation, knight to a5. Here black plans on playing move bishop b7, and basically it's a high class move to basically say that, hey, the knight has done its job in reinforcing e5, but now that d6 is played, the knight is no longer needed there, and basically seeks a new job. So what knight b8 does is it clears the diagonal for the bishop to put more pressure on e4, and the knight will swing back around and to d7, and then black will often play c5, and then after an exchange on c5, right, if that occurs, then the knight will hop back in on the 5th rank instead of, as opposed to the 6th rank. And of course the knight being here on c5 will put more pressure on the e4 pawn. Many games in this variation, many grandmasters have tried it. So all of these are typical moves, and what I would like to say is a quote by Nimzovich, or paraphrase rather, that he said that a master must learn to content himself with the accumulation of small advantages. And here we have a small advantage in that black has willingly taken on an isolated pawn. Usually players will take on the isolated pawn so that they can have freer piece play and more piece activity. Usually dynamic players will play in this fashion. So here we have this isolated pawn, and let's see how Leko dealt with it. Black continues with his plan of putting more pressure on the e-pawn. Leko just continues to probe the black position for weaknesses. b4 is played, knight f5. This is one of the downsides of black's plan. By taking the bishop off of c8, leaves his square vulnerable for occupation with an enemy knight here. Rook c8, knight f1. These are all typical Rui Lopez moves. Pawn is attacked again, so black is going along with his plan. Knight g3, so white is always just in time to make sure that this pawn stays defended here. Alright, this is the major target in the position for white now, is to blockade this pawn and win it. Black is, on the other hand, hoping to have enough compensation and active piece play to offset this positional weakness. Bishop g5. This is an important move because black is threatening to remove the defender on the king side over here, but more importantly a defender of the d6 pawn, so that white will have the numbers attacking this pawn after, say, bishop takes f6 and bishop takes. However, this pawn would be weak also, and this explains Leko's next moves. So h6 is played, so first he gets rid of the bishop, so he doesn't have to worry about the bishop being on f6 later, attacking anything. The queen takes, he throws his other knight up into that square, so now this is attacked again. And then instead of losing time, moving the bishop back or something like that, he just simply grabs the knight on f6, and boom, he wins the pawn. Knight here, forking everything. But I'm sure black has seen that he can just pin right here. But Leko has a nice move also. So he solidifies the presence of the knight on d6. Beautiful outpost in the position. And furthermore, he's just up a pawn here. So now we have to ask the question, does black have enough compensation for the pawn deficit? Before we were asking if black had enough compensation for the isolated pawn. but now the pawn is gone. So I would have to say no at this point, because white is pretty much caught up in development. He only needs a move or two. This pin is not drastic. White can easily escape, and there's not really a lot of attacking moves that white can do in order to generate an initiative here. Matter of fact, it's black's queen that is under attack at this moment. So queen g5 is played, g3, just dealing with the simple mate threat on g2, rook c7, and h4. So I like this move by Leko. Hits the queen and places the pawns on dark squares so that this bishop is a non-factor going forward. Queen e7, and now queen g4, and now Leko starts to threaten himself with moves like knight f5, threatening the queen here, and also threatening to capture on h6. Queen e6, offering trade, and now here Leko can grab another pawn, but again, it might be allowing black to get back into the game, say after queen d5. It's some activity there, although he can give up his beautifully placed knight for the bishop on b7. But I understand Leko's move perfectly. He's up a clear pawn. His knight on d6 is practically unassailable unless black gives up the exchange, or he takes a lot of time maneuvering his knight to try to trade it off. So why not go into an endgame, a clear pawn up? This is what he does. Queen takes e6, knight takes e6, and rook hc1. This knight is really a monster in the position, and just exacerbates the problems that black has. So bishop a8, f4. Right, here's the 4-3 pawn majority on the king side. So we're setting that up for later. Now the plan is just to quench black's activity, quench that little fire and spark that he has left by trading off some more pieces. Leko starts moving his king to the center. Moves the rooks on the same files as the opposing rooks to get them traded off. So right here he has a chance to get rid of a couple of pieces, and he takes it. So rook takes, king e7, and knight takes e5. Of course, again, Leko could have just jumped right back in there. Would have been no problem. But his plan is to just trade down into a simple ending where he's wins. Now this move f6 just helped black realize help white realize his dreams of creating a pass pawn. Again, offering another trade, and notice there's no way for black to get out of the trade. Right? Now black has to try to create some kind of blockade here, and Leko deals with this in exemplary fashion, and now he's pressuring this pawn. So black's idea is, okay, you take my h pawn, I'll take your a pawn. But Leko does not rush. He simply improves the position of his king, so he takes more space. Now he takes. So now we got a 3-1 on the king side. White's extra pawn is definitely more dangerous. Notice how white's king is right next to the pawns. So black's pawns aren't going anywhere, whereas these 3 pawns are very dangerous. Now black has to worry about the king getting over here, so this bishop is kind of stuck over here. This is why the king goes back. This allows Leko to improve his king position once again. And there's some more desperation here. The idea is basically to try to just create a pass pawn out of nowhere and queen somehow. This blocks the action of the black bishop, so now these pawns are free to run. Again, soon as this king moves, Leko just keeps dominating. So remember this theme of dominating. Notice how he didn't rush to try to get to the pawns. He just dominated the position first. Then the material will come as a result of that dominance in the position. B5, bishop B5, and the pawns begin to run now. Again, this is just a hoax because that pawn on the B5 is not going anywhere. Notice how the bishop has that square under control. And now king C5, bishop D1, king D4, and black just resigned. There's no way to stop the king coming here, and basically bishop here, rounding up this pawn, and then this pawn's gonna queen, or one of these are queen. So that was a wrap. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I know it was quick, but it was just a real simple, straightforward game by Leko. You know, dealing with the isolated pawn and the weakness, the weaker side of the isolated pawn, and converting. You know, and also the use of the F5 square if we want to, you know, sum up some key points. We had the isolated pawn taken on by black, but it turned out to be a weakness, and we had the dominance of the F5 square in the Ruy Lopez, which is a major theme. And now we see the downside of taking that bishop off the C8 to H3 diagonal and putting it on bishop B7, and then we saw a nice endgame conversion, and we saw the dominance of the king, not rushing to capture pawns, but continually increasing its scope and position. Alright, so hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, comment, and if these lessons, you know, I have a lot of videos, if they, you know, help you out, help your game, please donate if you can. I will really appreciate it. Thank you very much.